It's another 2026 rookie mock draft right here on the Dynasty Hotseat. We're going to talk about this incoming rookie class. Who do we like? Who do we not like? And then rank them 1 to 12 in a first round Superflex mock draft. Let's go. Jack, great to have you back on the show. Longtime viewers will recognize Jack from last year when he absolutely crushed a 2025 rookie mock draft. We had to get him back on. If you don't know already, you can follow him at Jack_Brentnell over on Twitter. He does some stuff for the Touchdown NFL and pretty good at watching the old film as well, Jack, right? We talked last time you did you've done like a proper film study, not like me who just goes on vibes.
I just have too much time on my hands. That must be what it is. Yeah, it's good to be back on. It feels I always like this time of year because I've been kind of watching tape since the summer really, and it's always nice when like things really start to heat up. Feels like we're really getting into draft season. So yeah, it's the best time of year, and not just because it's nearly Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Jack, before we jump into the class and ranking them, do you have any overall feelings about this 2026 rookie class as a whole?
I think the class as a whole, not to put too much of a downer on it, is maybe a little weaker this year, and I think that's true of kind of the fantasy relevant positions. However, I'll caveat that I think there is maybe more wide receiver talent than people are giving it credit for. I think if you'd asked me at the start of the season, the wide receiver group was not something I was a big fan of, but I think it's come on quite well, which is great because I think, as I think we'll come on to, running back and tight ends maybe a little thin on the ground. So, and then quarterback, I'd say it's a top-heavy group, and then it's, I suppose, like it always is with quarterbacks. You've got a couple of guys who you're like, well, they can be franchise guys, maybe. But then after that, if you're not thinking they're franchise guys, then it drops off pretty quick. So, an interesting class. I think, yeah, interesting group.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of you're echoing a lot of things that I've said before about this class, but it'll be interesting to see how you rank them. So let's do that right now, shall we? Let's bring up good old fan tracks here. Some people asked in the comments last time, where do you find this? It's on fan tracks. Hey, good luck setting one up. That's all I'll say. It takes a while. I'm getting slightly faster on it, but Jack, no time like the present. Let's start off at the 101. Please remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is a Superflex mock draft. And of course, please remember, if you're here, hit a like, hit a subscribe as well. And why don't you drop a comment? Who's your 101 in this class? But we're here to find out who Jack's is. So, Jack, where are we kicking off for this draft?
So I'll be honest, it's fairly close. I don't think there's a clear 101 for me. Yeah. And I think there's a couple of players who could be in contention. I think, given this is Superflex, quarterback is king. I am going to go with Fernando Mendoza, the Indiana quarterback. Now, in terms of how I see him as a prospect, I think for me, I have him graded higher than I had Cam Ward last year. I think the NFL will like him. I think we're talking top 3 pick, top 5. Quarterbacks always get inflated. As we know, if you're a maybe 10 or 15th best player in the class, you're probably going to go number 1. I think Mendoza started his career at Cal. I liked his tape last year, but I think he's grown a lot this season at Indiana. Obviously, leading them on an unbeaten run so far this season. Now, he's maybe not the most mobile quarterback, right? He can move, but he's not a big runner. But I think he makes up for it with what he does from the pocket. He is super accurate, processes really well. He's a good decision maker. You don't see him put the ball in harm's way too much. I think what I just love about him is his competitive toughness and ability to deliver when the lights are brightest. Now, the box score might not always reflect that, but if you turn on those kind of big moment games he's had this year, obviously we had Ohio State recently. There was the Penn State game earlier in the season, which came down to the wire. And there was the Oregon game as well. All of them games he's delivered in. And I think that ability is something that NFL coaches obviously love, and that's going to elevate him up draft boards. I think mechanics are clean. Arm strength, I think, is good. I don't think it's elite, but I think it's good.
Yeah.
You're not going to get a big kind of Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen type out of the pocket creator, but I think he feels pretty safe. And I think he might never be a top 5 quarterback, but I think we could be talking someone in the kind of Jared Goff, maybe even pushing like, I know this maybe is on the lofty side, like a Matt Ryan type player. Who I mean, Matt Ryan won an MVP, so I think potential there. I think with the way this class is, as I said earlier, that's the kind of guy I want to bank on, given the value of quarterbacks in Superflex.
I mean, maybe a guy. I think he kind of looks a bit like Kirk Cousins. I don't know if that helps with the comping as well, but
he does. Did you see his post game interview against Ohio State as well? He was giving off real Kirk Cousins vibes with that as well.
He's definitely given Kirk Cousins vibes for sure. The thing with Mendoza, and maybe Jack, you might be a good person to ask, although I'm not sure how much of a deep dive you've done. I mentioned this in the last mock draft. When I'm watching him play, and you could try this experiment as well. As soon as he takes a snap, if you pause the video you're watching, you can tell where he's going to throw it every single time. And I find that slightly worrying if I can see that. And it's not me to guessing. It's like, it's going to go here, it's going to go there. And it goes there like almost every time. Do you find that kind of worrying for a player like Mendoza for when he takes a step up?
I think the scheme is probably a big part of that. So Indiana runs loads of RPOs and loads of quick game stuff. So it is kind of that pre-snap read, see if you've got it, and then just throw it. So I think that was true at Cal as well. Cal was quite similar. So there is probably going to be a step up in that sense, depending on where he goes. Like if you go to maybe a more kind of pure progression system, like a Sean McVay type, or anyone in that kind of tree, it's maybe going to be a bit of an adjustment period. But I think he does show enough of that when he needs to. When you see kind of those first readers not open, you do see him work through his progressions in good time. So I think he can do it. But like with all rookies, there will probably be an adjustment period.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's locked in, as you said, in Superflex. Quarterback is king. So he is locked in as your 101. So let's move on then, shall we, to your 102, shall we? Where are you going with your next pick?
Yeah, so this is another quarterback. Because again, value, and I think these two for me are neck and neck. And I don't know who's going to be my QB1 by the end of things. For me, this is Dante Moore, the Oregon quarterback. Yeah. Now, I think there is a chance he comes back. Now, if you'd asked me maybe 2 weeks ago, I would have said I think he's going back to school. Oregon obviously has deep pockets and they can pay him well. But he's been getting more and more buzz at the pro level. And I think what's really important for people to know, so his offensive coordinator at Oregon, the guy who was there through Bo Nix, Dylan Gabriel, and now him, he's left to become the head coach at Kentucky. So I think that adds a bit of uncertainty for Moore, because if he is returning, it's with a new system, a new coach. I think that could push him to declare, especially if he's getting top 5 type talk from NFL teams, which I think he is, and he will be in that range. Now, in terms of what his strengths are, he is, again, kind of similar. They're different, but there's a lot of similarities between the strengths of him and Mendoza for me. Really good processor, good decision maker. I think his accuracy is excellent, and his feel for touch and placement, especially for a guy who, he did start at UCLA 3 years ago, but first time starting at Oregon, his understanding of touch and placement, I think, is excellent. His arm strength is good as well. I think you see him kind of driving the ball on far hash throws and deep balls. I think there's some really nice plays there. He's mobile enough. He's more mobile than Mendoza. He's not a dual threat, but like the comp for me is a CJ Stroud. And he's kind of like Stroud in the sense that, like, when we watched Stroud at Ohio State, it was like, why does he not run a bit more? Like, he's a good athlete. Why does he not run? And then there was that Georgia game, and it was like, oh, he can run. I think Moore's a bit similar. Like, he can, but he wants to win from the pocket. Now, I think there's a couple of small areas for him to improve on, which I think are natural for first year. Well, not first year starter, but a guy who's maybe he started this year's season after not starting last season. He isn't necessarily always the most consistent under pressure. I think you can see his mechanics particularly start to kind of fall apart a little bit, and that then leads to some inaccuracy and placement issues. I think as well his anticipation, he shows it and you do see it, and I think he processes well in terms of his decisions and getting through his reads, but he's not always willing to pull the trigger before a guy's open, which again, I think that comes with just experience, reps, starts. So I'm not overly concerned, but he for me is right up there with Mendoza. I would not be surprised if he declares as my QB1. But I think the NFL is going to like him, especially those kind of offenses like I mentioned, the McVays, the Shanahans, those guys.
I'm getting a lot of similar sort of, not necessarily notes on these players in terms of their attributes, but I'm getting similar feelings watching Mendoza, watching Dante Moore that I did last year, watching Cam Ward, watching Jackson Dart, where it was like, yeah, that's pretty nice, but I'm not like blown away like I was watching like Jaden Daniels, for example. I'm not like, wow, can't wait to see this guy play in the league. It's kind of like, yeah, they're pretty cool. Are you kind of that same level as well?
I am, yeah. These aren't guys that would go number one potentially, or maybe top 2 or 3 every year. Like if you go back 2 years and there was that class where God, however many was quarterbacks went in the first round. Now I know they've not all panned out, but like I don't think these guys weren't for me in like the Drake May, Caleb Williams type tier for where I had those guys. But I think they are. I feel confident in them as starters because I think the traits that they have translate well to the pro level. They're not, I think sometimes where we can struggle with the college to pro projection is overvaluing the athleticism, maybe not kind of looking at the fundamentals and the way that these guys go through their reads. So I think these guys have that, and that makes me confident that, yeah, they might never be top 5 quarterbacks, but they'll be solid, and there's a lot of value in that from a dynasty point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. Just getting that consistent quarterback, even if it's a QB2 or even a QB3, that's like it can come in super useful in a Superflex league for sure. All right, that brings us up to pick number 3, Jack. So where are you going with this? You going QB? Or are we sticking with QB or are we going elsewhere?
We're not. We're going with the guy who I really nearly took at 101. That is Ohio State receiver Carnell Tate. Now, I'll be honest. I did my summer scouting of wide receivers. See what it would be like 6 months ago. Tate ended up as like my wide receiver 10 or 11. I was not a big fan. I didn't dislike him, but I just didn't see it. I think you kind of sometimes you try not to come to Tate with expectations, but you go, oh, Ohio State receiver, former. I think he's a former 5-star, certainly a 4-star. You're going, right, okay, I know what I'm getting here. I'm getting another Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jackson Smith and Jigba, like you name it, there's a million of them. And I didn't feel like I saw that. But then I went back and watched his tape this season, and I felt like I saw a different player. I felt like I saw the guy I wanted to see in the summer. Now, he is naturally going to get overshadowed by playing on the same team as Jeremiah Smith, but I don't really care about that. I think he looks to me like a true ex-receiver, NFL, wide receiver 1. He would be the top receiver on pretty much any other college team. I really think that there's maybe 1 or 2 others with guys who aren't draft eligible, but he's right there. What really stood out to me this year is his development as a route runner is really impressive. He has a great understanding, as those Ohio State guys always do, of pacing, understanding how to attack leverage, varying his stem. You see him work guys at the line in terms of his releases, good use of hands to beat press, quick feet. Now, he is not a burner in terms of if his 40, I think he's probably going to be like a 4.48, 4.5 maybe. But he wins downfield, and he wins downfield consistently because he is so crafty and so smart, and his hands and ability to adjust at the catch point are out of this world. Like elite hands, he is gonna come down with the football if it's thrown anywhere in his kind of zip code. So a guy I really like. I don't have a comp, and I'm not saying this is a comp, but the guy he reminds me of, and this might just be because he wears 17, but I say this as a Packers fan, there is a bit of Devontae Adams to his game. Now, that is lofty, and I'm not saying he's going to be Devontae Adams level player, but like in terms of the sense that like neither of them are elite burners in terms of just pure track speed, but they win at all three levels. They are really smart, and they've got great hands. So I think there's an awful lot to like. Now, he's not the most dynamic after the catch, but I can live with that if you're a great route runner, you separate easily, and you've got elite hands. So yeah, he's my wide receiver one.
I absolutely love that you mentioned the word adjustment there, because actually that's some of the notes I'm looking down, and I've written the word adjustment and the word hands more than any other word, I think, as well. Like, I think, well, a controversial opinion, Jack, we'll not get into it today, but maybe next year when you're back on, I think the wide receivers are making Julian Sayin look like a potential Heisman winner rather than Julian Sayin be a potential Heisman winner.
I don't necessarily disagree from what I've seen. Yeah. There's a few plays. I want to say it was the Penn State game where Tate won downfield and then had to like completely slow down and then work back through a defender, grab the ball, and then somehow stay on his feet and then make it into the end zone. Like but then like that was a complete underthrow, but he just made it look amazing. Like, and that's what he does. So if you've got a guy who can bail out average quarterback play, I'm not saying Sayin's average before people get angry. But like if you can get like average throws or below average throws, that is an amazing skill to have.
Yeah, and who knows, with the quarterback play in the NFL, there's a chance he might be getting some below average quarterback play. So that's a good trait to have. And he's locked in as your wide receiver one on this class. That's, I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe this is 3 mock drafts, 3 different wide receiver ones so far, which is very exciting for this class. So who's going up at 1-4? Are we sticking with that pretty solid wide receiver position?
I am not. I am going to switch to running back here. And I'm going to go with JEREMIYAH Love out of Notre Dame. I think, obviously, there's going to always be that conversation around running back value. And I think the situation with Ashton Jeanty with the Raiders will have scared some people off in terms of the fantasy side of things. I get it. Like, I've got a fair few shares of Jeanty, and it's not felt great at times. But I think, realistically for me, like, that Raiders situation is so diabolical and so atrocious that I'm kind of willing to just trust good running backs, even if they don't land in great situations. I'm not going to generally land in that terrible of a situation. So, yeah, Love is, I think, he's got good size, 6 foot, 212. He has exceptional vision, which for me, as much as athleticism is important with a running back, vision is always the thing I come back to. Because if you don't know where to go with the ball, it doesn't matter how fast you get there. If you go into the wrong place, it's not worthwhile. He's comfortable running kind of gap and zone scheme, so I see him being a true kind of scheme versatile runner. The burst at his size, I think, is excellent.
Yeah.
You see home run speed, but you also see kind of power in how he runs. There are some really nice plays where he just barrels through guys to get to the end zone. And he's got kind of decent wiggle and shift for his size. He'll try and hurdle guys, and it does often work. There's not many players who are 212 and they can hurdle, but he can. Now, I think he has a bit of room to grow in pass protection. And I think there are maybe times where if he's hit early, he gets stalled a little easy, which does worry me a little. But I think on the whole, he just feels like a pretty safe running back to me. And, you know, in a class that's lacking star power, I think positional value is what's keeping him down. But he'd be, if we weren't thinking about it from that sense, he'd probably be the most talented player at his position out of the fantasy relevant positions for me.
Do you make anything of obviously the whole playoff situation with Notre Dame happening right now? What do you make of a lot of people saying the reason they're not in is because of the schedule and it wasn't strong enough? And does that weigh in anything to how you view Jeremiah Love? Because like look at his numbers, like he still did well against like the ranked teams.
He did, yeah, and I think there are always going to be games that you're kind of flat track bully, kind of make the most of lower level competition. But I thought he still looked good in those games. You know, they played Texas A&M, they played Miami, played USC. I think he looked good against that competition, and I think the year before as well,
228 yards against USC. So that's
that USC game was just like it was. If you want to watch a great run game, go watch that because him and his teammate Jadarian Price, like.
Yeah,
I don't know how many yards they put up, but it was between them. It was filthy. Like it was just it was not. If you're a USC fan, don't go anywhere near that tape.
No.
But yeah, I think he's. I don't know. He's probably not that far off the Genty tier to me. In the same way, like Genty for me was not in like the Bijan tier from a few years back, but still very very good and a guy. I think I would take first round of kind of actual draft, and certainly if we're talking fantasy draft, I just don't see, even with what's happened with Genty, Love slipping too far because I think he will be picked top 15 picks in the NFL draft. I really do, because I think once you get out of those first couple of quarterbacks and a couple of guys at premium positions, there is a steep drop off at kind of other spots. So I think that teams are just going to go for a known reliable quantity because there's value in that.
Yeah, absolutely. What really excites me, maybe more than anything, is the hands. And we've seen for fantasy football, if you're a running back that can catch passes, that's huge for everything. He's shown that he's, for me, the best pass catching running back in this class, and just so happens to be the best running back as well. So you got him locked in at pick 4. Where are we going next at pick number 5, Jack?
So we're saying that he was dominating USC. Well, we're going to go to USC with their wide receiver, MAKAI Lemon. Now, Lemon is not necessarily going to be everybody's cup of tea, but I think he is a really easy NFL projection. Now, he's not the biggest. He's 5'11", 190, but he is incredibly productive. He's had over 1,000 yards and 11 touchdowns this year, over 3 yards per out run. He is short area quickness, explosiveness, they're all there. His hands, I said Carnell Tate's are elite. I think Lemons are pretty close to elite.
Yep.
I think the only difference for me is maybe how they play through contact at the catch point. Lemon has some amazing plays, but I don't think he's going to be a consistent kind of contested catch, kind of jump ball guy because of that size in the NFL. He is, again, detailed route runner, really tough. Like he's not the biggest, but you watch him run a slant over the middle of the field, he will catch that ball full extension, no fear of contact.
No.
He is incredibly dynamic after the catch. This is where he's different from Tate. He's got good vision. He's got really nice quick feet. The Illinois game was brilliant for this. There was a play. It was actually taken off, so it didn't count towards the box score, where they ran a fake. I think it was whether it was a running back or a wide receiver passed to him. He was just over the top of the defense, but then just shifted, kind of made like 2 or 3 guys miss, ran all the way to the end zone. He is such a fun player. Reminds me of Amon-Ra St. Brown. I know it's like I always try and avoid like same school comps because you don't want a helmets count. But like similar in that sense. And like, yeah, St. Brown plays like a lot in the slot, but he gets volume. He is super productive, super reliable. Like I say, Lemon is not the biggest. He will struggle against press. Like if you watch the Notre Dame game, they put Leonard Moore, who is their sophomore corner, who is going to be a top 5-10 pick next year. They put him on Lemon all game and kind of pressed him. That's not where he's going to win. You're going to need to make sure he's kind of getting free releases, but put him in the slot, get him in bunches. There's loads of teams that are doing that now, so I'm not as worried. He's never going to be a kind of boundary X receiver at that size anyway. So, yeah, really like him.
Yeah, he's my favorite wide receiver in this draft class. Every week, I just looked forward to watching USC just to see what they could do with MAKAI Lemon. They kind of became like the MAKAI Lennon experience after a little while. They're like, right, let's give this guy jet sweeps. Let's put this guy here, there, everywhere. Let's let him do everything, because they were like, he is definitely our best chance of winning a game. So let's get the ball in his hands. I think you absolutely nailed it, saying that while he is 5'11", he doesn't play like that. He wins these tough catches. He is fearless. I love what he can do after the catch. I think that this guy's great. I do hope that he does end up, because everybody else is taking him around this kind of 1.5 kind of range, and I hope that he can stay there, because I'm happy to trade back and get him, or trade up and go get me some McCallum, and I'm excited to see what he can do for sure. And you said he's not everyone's cup of tea. Well, I'm drinking a big cup of ginger and lemon tea right now, Jack. I absolutely love the guy. So he's locked in at 1.5. Where are we going to go next at 1.6? Because previously on other shows, people have said this is the cutoff. This is the end of the not elite talents, but the talents they're happy to take. I don't know if you're the same.
I can see that. So actually, I do have a gap between my top 2 wide receivers and my third one. It's not massive. Like this guy's still a first round pick in my book, but there is a gap. The player I'm going with here is someone who, for others, will probably have gone by now, is Jordyn Tyson, the wide receiver from Arizona State. Now, over summer, Tyson was my wide receiver 1. There's so much to like about his game. And I think the fact he's wide receiver 3 maybe says more about how good I think those other 2 guys are than it does anything about Tyson. He is good athlete, great short area quickness. You see him stack guys when he's working vertical, accelerates well after the catch. He is like those 2. He's a really detailed route runner. He separates consistently at all 3 levels, really fluid in and out of his breaks. He understands kind of how to vary tempo, shows good footwork at the line of scrimmage. He processes well. Like, you can see him find soft spots in zone. You can see him understand how to manipulate guys in terms of targeting blind spots. His hands are great. Ball skills are good. Maybe not in the elite territory, but certainly very good. He's tough as well. He's a willing blocker. This is the same for Lemon and Tate as well. Like, I know this isn't something that shows up in the stat sheet, but I love a wide receiver who blocks. And, like, again, Green Bay fan, like, there's that whole thing that Matt LaFleur says, no block, no rock, right? Like, you've got to block. Like, and it's I think maybe I've just watched too much Green Bay tape over the years to kind of shape my view of wide receivers. But he'll show great effort as a blocker, which I love and teams will love. The reason, to be honest, the reason he is not my wide receiver 1 is primarily injuries. His injury history is scary. People who've watched tape this year, they'll have seen missed a fair bit of time with a hamstring. I seem to think, although I haven't seen this confirmed, he had, which hamstring it was that was causing him problems that made him miss games. Then he came back, which again speaks to the toughness and competitiveness. I seem to think he injured the other hamstring, or it certainly looked on tape that the one he was kind of clutching at was the other hamstring. That in and of itself is probably nothing crazy, but last year, season ended due to a broken collarbone. The year before, he was at Colorado. He tore his ACL, he tore his MCL, and he tore his PCL. Now, he came back from that, and the tape that I've watched of him in 2024 and 2025 is post that injury. But, like, that's 2 years with season-ending injuries and a third where he's struggled to stay on the field. That just, like, that worries me. He's not small. Like, he's 6'1", 195, so he's not small. So it's not like, oh, he's just, like, kind of not got a good frame. He can put more weight on, he'll be fine. But like I say, the stuff when he's on the field and he's healthy, that is the tape of a kind of top 15 pick, top 10 pick potentially. It's just the injuries that kind of worry me more than anything.
Yeah, I think you're quite right to be worried about those. Like, it is mounting up, and it's like, is that every season then that he's had some kind of injury, and it's only going to get bigger, stronger, faster, tougher next year for him. So
Mm.
you kind of do like that little like wincing a little bit when you're thinking about it. And are these guys, because everyone has these guys really close? Can you foresee something that landing spot can really, really affect where you're going to rank these guys when all said and done?
I think Tate will be wide receiver 1, regardless, probably for me.
Mm-hmm.
I just think he is. There's nothing. There are like niggles with his game, but like
Mm-hmm.
he can kind of line up anywhere. He'll do it. He's got the size. There's everything. If Lemon goes somewhere where they maybe play more kind of heavy personnel and don't have that slot on the field, I could see him maybe shifting with Tyson. But I think that's probably where it's going to look for me. I think with those three, I don't see it changing much, and I don't think the next guy we talk about is not that far off. But I don't see the top 3 changing.
Oh, so that's interesting. You did mention the next guy is not that far off. So for, like I said, other people on the show, they did mention there were these 6 guys, and then there was a very clear cut off in terms of how much they like these prospects. Have you got a 7th guy in this tier, or maybe you have more players that you actually really like in the first round?
I have a 7th, but I think that's probably if like I say, if you're looking. So my grades, I'll have a film grade. There's an analytics grade which will be factored in once the season's done, but most of it's the film grade, and then there are additions or subtractions for things like special teams value and injury history. So if you just looked at film grade, it would be these 6 because Tyson would be in that kind of group. He's knocked down closer to this next guy because of the injuries, and the next guy who I think is kind of in that tier is Casey Conception from Texas A&M.
I love it.
So, yeah, a player who, again, really grew on me this year. Now, he was at NC State previously. I thought his tape was good at NC State, but he played like a really gadgety role. There was loads of manufactured touches. It was really fun, but like when you're projecting to the NFL, it's like, okay, like how does this work? And certainly from fantasy, like, okay, this is really cool that they've got these schemed up touches, but how many NFL teams are going to do this a lot? Like, this is very collegey. Whereas when he moved to Texas A&M, he has become like a proper, true wide receiver. Over 800 yards, 9 touchdowns. He is great athlete, like real 3-level speed. He can win downfield. Again, like these guys, this is like, there's some commonality here, but I think this speaks to why I love this wide receiver class. Another great route runner. He's so smooth. Like his ability to change direction without losing speed is excellent. You see him working zone coverage. He's great. He knows how to kind of find the soft spots, settle down there, manipulating defenders in space. He is absolutely incredible at the line of scrimmage. Like, he's not the biggest. He's 5'11", 190, so he's the same size as Lemon. But like, he plays outside, and guys cannot get their hands on him at the line of scrimmage. He is just so quick. Great yards after catch guy as well. Now, he's not the strongest after the catch, but he's so explosive, it kind of doesn't matter because he can just erase pursuit angles. Now, the hands are a little inconsistent. A few focus drops on tape. I think that's generally just because he is so focused on that yak ability. You'll see him almost like focus on turning up field before he's completed the catch. So I don't think it's a case that he can't catch. I think it's more just calming him down, focus on that, then work after the catch. He's not going to be, ex-receiver, contested catch guy. He's not going to overwhelm guys with strength. But I don't think he needs to because, like I say, he's so quick, he's so elusive that guys just can't stick with him. And I just, came away really pleasantly surprised by his 2025 tape. Not least because I mentioned some good numbers there. His quarterback, like, there were so many plays on tape when he was wide open downfield and he was not hit in stride. Yeah, like the amount of missed production on tape on the box score that's not his fault. Like, he could have had 1,200 yards quite comfortably.
Yeah, Yeah, I think he's a fantastic player, really, really fun. What I do like as well, and I don't know how much this helps draft capital, maybe not where the likes where we expect Kessie Concepcion to be taken, which is I don't know what second round NFL draft pick probably. We're looking at you might sneak into the first, but probably second, I would say.
Yeah, I think
Is
late first, early second, somewhere in the kind of
yeah.
25 to 45 range.
How much do you think the teams will factor in? He's also an awesome punt returner. Do you think that helps his
Yeah.
draft causes a lot?
I do. I think especially if you know maybe it's less important if he was like a nailed on like first rounder,
Yeah,
because you're not going to get your first round pick and then send him out on special teams very often.
yeah,
But yeah, I think like the further down you go in the draft, the more that matters. I think teams will like him for that a lot and I think that shows up in how he plays as a receiver as well.
for
Like you
sure.
see that ability to kind of navigate the open field, quickly read traffic, kind of understand how to, let blocks set up on screens and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think he's the kind of player who, because he is a bit more role specific than maybe a guy like Tate or even Tyson, he is. There will be some teams who are like, okay, we don't need that kind of player. So I could see him maybe slipping a bit further than those guys who are maybe more
Yeah,
universal. But whoever gets him is going to get a hell of a player.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I think he's going to slot in perfectly somewhere for sure. So that is 1-7 in the books. Where we're going to go next at 108.
So this is where it gets a little bit more like dicey.
Yeah,
I had no idea what to do at this spot. There were a couple of guys that I was thinking of. This might be a bit early. I don't know, but I'm going to go a bit rogue and go with the tight end, and I'm going to go with KENYON SADIQ from Oregon.
I think this is
Now,
perfect. This is exactly where I have him. By the way, I think this is perfect.
yeah, so it's one of those things. So my wide receivers, we'll come on to some more of them in a bit. You've kind of got the top two, and then there's kind of Tyson and Concepcion in like a tier by themselves, and then there is a decent drop off. There's frankly for me, this is a two quarterback class. I don't think there's a third guy. You never know. Teams fall in love with guys all the time, but for me right now, I don't see another one. I think like there was some buzz around Ty Simpson from Alabama, but I think he's going back to school, judging by how he's played over the last 4 weeks, 5 weeks.
I would go back.
Yeah, certainly like that Georgia game. You're like, oof, like
It's brutal.
So if he's not there, then it's like right, well, tight end and SADIQ. Like if you go check the box score after this, and you're like, right, what's his production? You're not going to be wowed. This is not like a Brock Bowers at Georgia
No.
type usage. But I think he's not the same level of fluid athlete as Bowers, because I don't think I've ever seen a guy like that. But he is as explosive. Like he is so quick. I've seen reports he'll run like a 4.5, low 4.5s, and I can see that on tape. Bear in mind, this is a guy. I think he's now. I don't know if he's listed. I've got it as 245, but I want to say he might even now be listed by Oregon as 255. Which, if you're running a 4.5 at that size, like I don't want to be the guy trying to tackle that, right? So I think the selling point with him, great athlete, like really, really great athlete. He's the kind of guy, especially when you're watching on like All 22 and you don't have the commentary. Sometimes spotting where a guy is, like maybe like a MAKAI Lemon, it's like, oh, where are they? Like, and then maybe not as distinct. You can see him because of his build, like he is stacked, but he is also just moving differently to other guys on the field. He is really impressive after the catch. If you want to see his ability after the catch, his 2024 tape is excellent. Like he was used last year. They obviously had what's his name? Terrence Ferguson starting last season. So SADIQ was used as kind of a gadgety role. So he had like an ADOT of like 2. But he was excellent after the catch. He's had more of a kind of traditional usage this year. But he is, like I say, really quick, great after the catch. I think the other thing that's really stood out for me this year is his ability as a blocker. Now, he was always willing as a blocker. You turn on the tape. He is like finishing guys. Like I've not seen a guy more interested in blocking this year in terms of the skill positions than him. I posted a cut up earlier in the year. I can't remember who it was again. It wasn't against like top quality guys, but he was just pancaking them. Like he was like, and you're like, if you're doing this against a lower level team that you are meant to win, like you just have that kind of dog, right?
Yeah.
And I know that doesn't score you points, but especially at tight end, you need to be able to block to see the field consistently. Teams are, if you're running 11 personnel, you're not going to run it with a tight end that can't block because you might as well have a receiver out there. And if you're going to run kind of, 2 tight end sets, then he's the kind of guy who can do a bit of both. So he'll be on the field regardless because he can flex out. He spent a load of time playing in the slot, but he can play in line. And I think, the techniques maybe still got a bit of work to do. And the frame's a bit weird, right? Like he is 6'2", 6'3". I think he's 6'3". He's like short for a tight end. His arms look a bit short. His catch radius isn't massive. So like he's a bit of a different kind of, he's not built like your traditional tight end. And there's definitely refinement still to be had. Like he is still developing as a route runner. You don't see some of the nuance that you want to see. His hands are fine. There were a few drops this year that you'd like him to clean up, but he's still young. I think he's the kind of guy I'm just like, I'd be willing to bet on the traits there. And in the absence of another like stud, he's going to go first round because the way it sounds like the NFL's seeing this class is like it's him in terms of tight ends and then a massive gap. So somebody will take him in the first round. So for me, like having him here makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, this is, like I said, exactly where I have him. You're kind of banking on, like you said, like bank on the traits. Like you kind of see him and some of the power that he brings, and then the next play he'll hurdle over somebody. You're like, hold on, what's going on here? Like, how is he doing that? Like, it's one of those freak athletes, but it's not like I know they play different positions. It's not like an Anthony Richardson freak athlete where you're like, oh, I don't really know if this guy can even play football. Like he can definitely play, but he also has that freak athleticism too, right?
Yeah, he does. And I think, like I say, the finer points of the position are still developing, but like he can be on the field comfortably as a rookie, and you're not thinking, oh my God, what have we done? Like, so that path to the field early. Tight end is always a position that takes time to develop. I know there are guys who produce early, but on the whole, it's a much more of a developmental position. So I'm kind of comfortable with taking a guy that needs a bit of that.
Yeah, for sure. Me too. I think that's the perfect spot for him, for sure. So let's roll on from our first tight end. We're not expecting to see another one, like we said, a huge big drop off. So let's go to pick number 9. What position we going and who have you got?
So we're going wide receiver again. And this is where it gets kind of close, but the next guy on my board is Jeremy Bernard from Alabama. Now, like, I will kind of get it out of the way and say, like, he is not, like, Bernard is not the fastest. He is adequate as an athlete, but he's not, not going to impress by NFL standards. But the rest is there, right? Like, he is a great route runner. He is maybe the best, one of the best sets of hands in the class. I don't think I saw him drop a pass. So I think I watched 3 games of him in 2024 over summer. I've watched 3 games of him this year. I don't think I saw a drop. And I think, I can't remember what his stats are, but it's a really low drop rate. He is, despite the fact I said he's not a great athlete, he is really good after the catch. He is tough. He's got great vision, good contact balance. Watch the Tennessee game if you want to see him after the catch. There were a number of plays. I think it was that game as well where they were meant to run like a trick play where Ty Simpson threw it back to him and then he was going to throw it back across to Ty Simpson, realized Simpson was covered, and then just kind of went, screw it, I'm just gonna take off. And he just like slalomed through Tennessee's defense. So a really good player, good size. Like I've got verified measurables on him. He's 6'1", 209. So it's a little bit different how he's listed. A little bit bigger than he's listed. But I think that's good size. Now his arms are short and he's got a smaller wingspan. So that does show up when he's well, 2 points really for me. One is playing through press. I think he's strong, but I think longer corners give him problems in press. And contested catches. He's not terrible, but he's not great. And you can see that kind of the size limitations, the arm length limitations showing up there. So I think for me, you're talking like this is more a stylistic comp than a talent level one. Like a Keenan Allen type player. Like he's never going to be a burner. Like he's not going to be a guy who is going to take the top off a defense. But he's smooth. He is incredibly reliable in the short to intermediate area. And yeah, that just has value. I think, like I say, this is where the wide receiver class drops off a bit for me. So I don't see him ever being, like I say, he's not a Keenan Allen level talent, which for me is like why I wouldn't see him as a kind of a guy who's going to be a bona fide wide receiver one in an NFL offense. But I could see him maybe being like a kind of Chris Godwin level type, I guess. Like where he will produce quite well, but he's at his best where he's working with a kind of true number one.
Yeah, I think you're right. He's definitely not a guy that you would have as your number one receiver. I think the biggest note I actually have in this guy, and then I've got one worrying note that I've seen, which it seems like a compliment, but it's not. I keep writing down. This guy's hard to bring down. When he gets the ball in his hands, it seems like he does drag people along with him a lot. So you're right. You mentioned that toughness. He's definitely got it there. The worrying note that kind of seems like a compliment. I've written it a few times watching the games throughout the season. I've wrote the word gadget a lot, which kind of worries me.
He had some, he did get some weird usage. Like they would use him on, it's kind of weird. They'll use him on like jet sweeps and stuff, which it didn't work. But I'm like, he's not the kind of guy I think is going to be doing much of that.
No.
It's weird as well because it's not like they are an offense that doesn't have talent on it. Like that's sometimes the way guys get used, where it's like either we only have one guy and we need to find weird ways to get in the ball because we need to scheme up. Well, they've got Ryan Williams as well, so they're not short on talent. I think that might be more of I'm hoping anyway, that might be more of an Alabama offense kind of thing. Like their run game this year has been really, really bad. And I wonder if they're thinking, right, we can't run the ball, so let's get a guy like that who is kind of like a running back after the catch. Let's just try and use him and hope that makes this woeful situation slightly better.
Yeah, let's hope so. For me, this is where you're right. There is a clear drop off. A guy like Jeremy brought up from looking at players in past years. This would usually be a second round pick in most other draft classes, I would say. Yeah, definitely. So he's locked in here at pick 9. We got 3 left in the first round. Where are you going with pick 10?
So pick 10, I am sticking on the wide receiver trend. I think this should probably tell you something about how I view the running back class as well as the tight end class. I'm going with Denzel Boston from Washington. Now, Boston is there's a bit of similarities actually with Bernard in many ways. I think they are both kind of bigger receivers. Boston's quite a bit taller. They're both 209, but Boston's 6'4". So he is your true X-receiver build. Now he's kind of what you'd expect for a guy who is that size, right? He wins with strength, physicality. He is a kind of bully ball guy. He's got great hands. There are some spectacular plays on tape where he kind of holds onto the ball through contact, makes great contested catches. He is like Bernard, like a more big physical yak guy. He is tough. He's maybe not elusive. He's not shifty, but he's got kind of long strider speed. So he is not explosive in the short areas. Like you see it when he's working against like off coverage. He doesn't have the speed to really make guys open their hips and respect kind of down the field. But if he does get going, and you see him, Washington use him a lot on like crosses. If you get him going across the field, he does pick up speed. That's also why he's been used as a returner. So Washington's used him as a returner, as a punt returner, and he has had a punt return touchdown earlier this season. Well worth watching because it just shows he is like a tough player with good long speed, if not explosiveness and agility. Like I say, the hands are great. Route running's good. I wouldn't say it's kind of on the same tier as some of the other guys we've talked through, but I think it's good. Been productive at Washington. Like feels like a safe NFL projection because size, hands, route running, physicality. I think you still want to see him maybe develop a little more nuance in how he wins at the line, but the fact that he can win with physicality is quite promising given how the NFL plays in terms of DBs and press coverage. So, yeah, like a second round, probably talent for me, but like I say, with I just think there's more depth at the wide receiver, and also realistically, like you're going to have 2 or 3 of them on the field at any one time. So,
Yeah,
I'm kind of willing to take a punt there more than I am with running back.
yeah. Boston was one at the end of last year. I was so excited to see what he could do this year because I've seen a lot of positives and a lot of traits. I'm like, oh, this is cool. This is cool. This hasn't quite lived up to the hype that I had of him last year. So yeah, this is about the right position I have from as well. Just some games you're looking like fairly like underwhelming performances in terms of production. Only 2 games plus 100 yards in the season for Washington, which is like okay. I know they have had a pretty good run game with Jonah Coleman and their Damont Williams got a pretty good run game himself over Washington as well. Just a little bit underwhelming. I do still like the traits. I do still like the talent, but I've sort of now learned a lesson a few times, which is don't just take the superb athleticism as like your number one trait. So for Boston, even though I do like the athleticism, I do like the size, that can't be at the top of my list. And it sounds like we're thinking similarly.
Yeah, and I think, like you say, production. I don't think it's all on him, but the 2 of the games I watched this year, I can't remember what the others were, but I know that 2 of them that I watched were Ohio State and Oregon, and he had like 25 yards in each of those games. Now, there are other reasons for that. It wasn't just him, but like if we were talking about a guy that's like a first round lock, you want someone who's doing more than 25 yards against Ohio State and Oregon.
Yeah.
So like I say, it's more complex than that. Like box scores lie, but I didn't see much on the tape that made me think this was also just like something I could just explain away either. So yeah, because those are the kind of guys who'll be playing in the NFL, right? If you can't do it against them consistently, you do worry a bit.
Yeah, like I've watched all the Washington games, and there is my big concern is there's gaps between my notes on him. So I've got notes from week 4, and then I've got no notes on him until week 7, and then I've got a note in 8 and 9, and then I've got no notes on him until week 11. That gap means I didn't see anything in those weeks, which is kind of kind of worrying a little bit for Boston. But again, there are definitely still stuff I like. Don't want to crap on them too much. There's definitely traits there that we like, and we got 2 players left, which I'm sure we'll find some traits that we like about them too. So let's start off with pick 11, Jack. Shall we? Where are you going with that?
So this is where I think I'm going rogue.
Ooh.
I haven't seen any real buzz for this. Maybe outside of 1 or 2 people, I've not seen any buzz for this guy. Okay. I don't know if he declares.
Cool.
Omarion Miller from Colorado.
0 buzz from anyone. You're right. So let's hear. You're going to set the trend, Jack, for Omarion Miller. Let's have it.
I was looking through my notes from last time I was on, and I drafted 2 Colorado players, and I picked a Colorado player as my like sleeper guy. So like I'm just gonna say again, I'm not a Colorado fan. It's just as coincidental. So I was put onto him by Corey Kinnan, who is well worth a follow on Twitter if you don't already. Does some really good draft work, real good like film guy. So Miller is 6'2", 210, so ticks the size box. I have heard that there is at least one team in the NFL that has given him a first round grade. Now, we're in December, so take that with a pinch of salt.
Yeah.
I don't know if he declares because I think he's a true junior, so he may well go back. But in terms of his projection, he is really good after the catch. Really quick to get upfield. Kind of that transition from receiver to runner is excellent. He's got like the combination of speed and physicality to kind of either break tackles or force missed tackles. He shows kind of good route running skills. You see some really nice footwork, hand usage at the line to beat press, so he can win with quick feet. He can win with hands. You'll see him vary his route tempo and adjust his stem to create kind of favorable leverage. Crisp routes, runs a diverse route tree. He obviously is getting more ops this year because Travis Hunter's not there. LeJontay West has gone. Will Shepherd's gone. So he's getting much more opportunity this year. Good athlete as well. Quick off the line. You can see him win vertically. Now, the things, the kind of weaknesses and the things against him that are a slight concern. So he had a broken leg last year, and then he has dealt with a hamstring injury early this year. So he's another guy who has a bit of an injury knock. Not to the level of Tyson, but it is something to monitor. There is also like a discipline thing. Now, I'm not sure how serious this is. He was suspended, or well, not suspended. He was benched, rather, for the Utah game, or at least he was initially. And then I think Dion changed his mind because they were being absolutely destroyed. But it sounded like it was like missing a team meeting. So it's nothing major, but that is the kind of thing that NFL teams will care about. His kind of contested catches aren't great. Like there were a number of times he targeted downfield, needed to work through contact, and he just kind of flailed. He's not a great blocker, and I think, hands are fine. He's a bit of a body catcher. Like I say, I have no idea where the consensus will end up with on him if he declares, and this could look horrifically stupid in 6 months' time. But I think he's an interesting player who I'll have a kind of somewhere on day 2 grade when all's said and done. So yeah, a name to know for those who maybe haven't come across his tape yet.
Yeah, absolutely. You've certainly given me some homework to do. So I'm loading up the Omarion Miller tape to have a look now, Jack, for sure. I've got nothing to add. I'm not going to pretend like I know loads about Omarion Miller. I got nothing for you here, so I'm going to take your word. I'm going to go do some homework. I'm going to maybe chat about him on the next mock draft with someone after I've looked up, and I'm going to be waxing lyrical about Omarion Miller, I'm sure. So he's locked in as your second last pick. You got one more pick left. Who is it going to be?
So I debated putting a running back in here, but I just there isn't one that I love enough. There are a couple of sleepers that I might mention, but they're not first round guys. I have gone with Chris Bell, the wide receiver from Louisville. Now, I say this literally today, yesterday, it was announced he's torn his. I think it was torn his ACL, which isn't great. There's obviously something in the water with this wide receiver class and injuries. But that being said, like I think he's a really interesting prospect. I can see him being maybe a bit divisive as a prospect, but someone I like. Now, he was getting first round buzz, both kind of in the draft community, but also sounds like from the NFL itself. Now, I don't think I have him in that range. He's probably a day 2 guy for me, kind of regardless of the injury. But I think there are going to be people who absolutely fall in love with this guy. So he he's listed big, but I have verified measurables on him, and he's even bigger. So he's actually 6'2", 227 pounds. So he's a big guy. He's like half a tight end almost. He, despite that size, now I mean the size is obviously a big thing right now. He comes with kind of physicality, competitive toughness. He is going to bring the fight to DBs. He's going to overwhelm smaller corners. You see it in his releases. Like, he's so strong off the line, and he will bully guys.
Yeah.
He'll bully guys at the catch point as well. Like, there was a rep against Pitt this year where he was running kind of a comeback. The quarterback massively underthrew it, and the DB was jumping it, and he basically just fought through the DB and knocked the ball out of his hands. That being said, he's not just like a big guy. He is quick. He has a track background. He ran a 22.5 second 200-meter time in high school. He is fast in the open field. He's one of those guys, he will... Like, I've seen the Xavier Legette comps, but they're different kind of play styles to me. Like, where I see Bell is like, Legette was a pure deep threat, big-bodied, fast, deep threat. Bell is at his best for me, where he's working the short areas of the field, ideally kind of getting his back, kind of turning around, eyes on the quarterback, catching and then running. And there were some just insane plays on tape where you see him get the ball and you're like, oh, this will be, a nice game. And then he just flies and outruns everyone. The Miami game this year, there were a couple of plays where he just outran Miami secondary, like, completely. He is so quick. Now, you might see some AJ Brown comps as well. Now, I think that's probably a little bit lofty. I do think the challenge you've got with Bell is he's maybe not the most detailed route runner, as is often the case with some of these kind of big-bodied, fast guys that come out, partly because they've never really had to be the crafty ones. They can just bully you. They'll either outrun you or run through you. You see some choppiness in his routes, like when he's trying to especially work downfield and then make sharper cuts, you see kind of the struggles in transition in terms of just turning around and making a break. That's why I like him on those kind of shorter routes where he can just kind of run, settle, go. I have no idea where the NFL is going to view him now, because, like I say, was talked about as a first-round pick until the torn ACL. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if some team just says, sod it, like, he's talented, it's a weak class, let's take him in the first. The injury is going to be the talking point, I think, now, is, because we're not going to see him test at the combine. I think he would have been one of the best testers. I think he would have run a 4.4, like low 4.4s at 220 odd pounds. He'd have jumped out of the gym. Like, he's a great tester, but yeah, he's kind of in that conversation for me at the back end of the first now. But it's all going to hinge on the medicals and what we hear at the combine from the medical perspective.
Yeah, for me, he's just a really exciting sort of bit of clay that if he ends up with a good, like a real good coach, like, there's so many exciting traits that if you can get him up and running, like, if you give that guy a sort of a running start, like, that's exciting. We have seen a lot of that stop and go, but I mean, I can see him, like, put him in the big slot as well. Like, that'll be fun as well. You get him up to speed. Like,
yeah. That's where I'd want him. Like, he can play outside, but get him in there. Like, that is where he will thrive. Like, a proper kind of power slot. He's just going to bully guys, especially the smaller nickels.
Yeah, I'd love him in there. Hopefully the injury doesn't set him back too much. And we have hit the end of the first round, but everyone loves sleeper picks, Jack. There are some people watching this video that have probably skipped right to the end in this little tab on the chapter bit just to hear who are the sleeper guys. We know the first round, we can see them on the screen, but people are dying to know who have you got in the sleepers. We only mentioned one running back. Are we going to give some more running backs a little bit of love?
We're going to give some running backs a bit of love. There are a bunch of running backs in this class I like. It just comes down to how much I like them in terms of where they'll go in the draft. So one of the guys that I like is LJ Martin, who is running back from BYU. He's a big guy, 6'2", 220. He is well built. he's the kind of running back I like because, like, for me, like I said with Jeremiah Love, it's vision, it's patience, it's that ability. Now BYU run a lot of zone. You will probably hear Tyler Algier comps with him because they both played at BYU. They're both similar size. They are both incredible zone runners. I think they're a little bit different, but I can kind of see it. Same way as Algier, not an amazing athlete. Like the explosiveness and speed are adequate, but not that impressive. He's not a guy who'll make you miss. He'll break tackles, but he'll not kind of make guys miss in space. He is a good pass protector, which I think has value, gets you on the field in third downs, even if he's not maybe the most dynamic receiver. He is a reliable check down option. So you can see him at least contributing on all three downs. So he's definitely a guy I like. Another one who, again, is maybe someone who's not got much buzz yet, but I think will. Jamari Taylor from Virginia.
Yes, I like Jamari Taylor.
Yeah, so I watched him this morning. He's fresh in my mind. He graded out pretty well for me. Not well enough to get into the first round, but pretty well. He's 5'9", 204. So he is like a smaller back, but like got that kind of squatty build. Again, another guy with really good vision. He cuts well though. Like I think he's again a bit like Martin. He's not the most explosive. That does show in his like lack of chunk runs. He does not have many breakaway carries, and he hasn't in his career. Before he was at Virginia. He was at North Carolina Central in the FCS, and didn't have many there either. So I think that is just kind of who he is and how he plays. But he is very good pass protection back, and he's a good receiver as well. He reminds me quite a bit of Jaylen Warren. Similar kind of size, both guys who are maybe not elite athletes despite being smaller, but they are tough as hell. They will play on third downs, and we've seen it with Jaylen Warren. Like you can carve out a role like that at the NFL level. So yeah, those are two running backs I like. I do like Jonah Coleman as well from Washington. He's a fun player. The last guy I want to give a shout out to is Georgia Tech wide receiver Eric Rivers. So this is a guy I loved over summer scouting. He's not been as productive at Georgia Tech. He was previously at FIU and Memphis before that. He's small, right? So he's 5'10", 170, and that's verified. He's listed a little bigger, but he's 5'10". He's actually just a shade under 5'10". He is one of the fastest receivers in the class. If I were placing a bet on who is going to run the quickest 40 at the combine for receivers, he'd certainly be in the conversation. There's the guy, I can't remember his name now. There's a guy at Mississippi State who is also, is it Brendan Thompson, who is also lightning quick. But Rivers is really fast. Really explosive, short areas. As you'd expect for an undersized receiver, he is super speedy. He's really fluid. He's got that kind of snappy speed that can just separate really easily. True 3-level threat. Now, he's not going to play through contact brilliantly. He's not going to be a contested catch guy, but you're not drafting a guy who's 5'10", 170 to be your receiver who can play through contact, right? So I think he's got good hands if the throws are kind of within the strike zone, good awareness against zone, good after the catch. So I don't know where the NFL will have him. Like, he is probably going to end up getting drafted top end. I don't know, probably I'd say like top end of day 3. But he might sneak into day 2. Like I say, if he tests well, we've seen it before with certainly with receivers. If guys run quick, there is a number of guys who will get taken early. And I'm sure, I can't remember how he ran, but Tutu Atwell went early with the Rams. I can't remember what round he went in, but he went early. And
Did he
Rivers
go
is
second
another
round?
player than that. I was going to say, I think it was the second round, which is kind of wild because I remember at the time being like, sorry, who? What? When? But I'm not saying Rivers will go that early, but like I think that's proof that the league wants guys who can separate and who have speed. So he's a name to watch, certainly kind of in the pre-draft process. Yeah.
I don't know if you meant it, but the Rivers flows well comment, that was absolutely beautiful, Jack. I have to say that was fantastic.
I need to copyright that.
Yeah, I'll give you that. That's free. That's on the house for coming on the show. You can take it. That was fantastic. So unfortunately, but what a way to end it with a brilliant comment about those sleeper players, Jack. That does bring us to the end of the draft. I've had an absolute blast again, and knew it was going to have fun after last year. Can you just remind everyone before you get going, where can they find all your amazing work online?
Yeah, thanks for having me again. It's been great fun. You can find me on Twitter, Jack_Brentnell. I'll be doing kind of film content all the way up through draft season. There'll be a draft guide again this year, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And then I'm part of the group at the Draft Professors, so I'll be on their podcast every Sunday, pretty much. So in the run up to the draft. So yeah, Twitter's the best place to find me. But yeah, thanks again for having me. It's been great fun.
Absolutely my pleasure. And thanks again for you, ladies and gentlemen, watching at home. If you've not already, hitting that like and subscribe really, really helps out. And of course, let us know who's your one-on-one, who's your sleeper. It's always great to hear from people in the comments. But until next time, that is all for us here at the Dynasty Hotseat. Remember, for anything Dynasty you need to know, keep it locked on the Certified Inferno. We'll see you next time.